I first want to say hello to a couple of people. One is Sonia. Thank you for your wonderful comment. And for Sherry, I can't wait to see your fairy journal. So in today's video tutorial, I'm going to show you how I take this 110-pound cardstock, which I've cut into a door, and I turn it into a very aged looking old door with even the old knockers on it. It looks very rusty and old, and we have a fairy on the inside. So let's get started on the tutorial. For the door, I used the dies from Paper Discovery, and you can purchase them from Craft Stash US or Craft Stash UK. And you can see the die is quite large. It measures about 7 inches by 4 inches. There's the outline, then the door itself. And I cut out 2 of them using 110-pound white cardstock. Then they have the archway up at the top. Again, I cut that out. I'm going to be making 2 of the doors for 2 different journals, so that's why you see 2 of those. And then it also comes with some boxes of floral, a vintage light, some doorknobs and a door knocker. And if you remember, what I'm going to do is put this picture of the fairy behind the door in the journal so that when you open it up, you'll see the fairy. Now, I don't want you to be able to see through those little panes there. So I'm going to go ahead and just tape those to the inside of that door before I start aging it and coloring it. And I wasn't quite sure what to use, but I decided on just putting some Scotch tape to hold them in place. And when you open the door, you can't see the Scotch tape, and I think it'll hold it just fine. And yes, in the finished door, you can't even notice that Scotch tape, but it does hold those panels in place so that you can't see the little fairy behind the door until you open it up. So what I wanted to do to strengthen this cardstock was I took some acrylic gesso, and I just took the basic white, and I colored it with a couple of different colors of ink. I believe that first one I started with soft suede, but it wasn't dark enough, so I end up adding another color. So yes, the first color I use is Stampin' Up! Soft Suede. And I don't know what I was thinking, but what I used to mix it up with is my pokey tool. I should have actually got up from my chair and went in the kitchen and got a plastic spoon or something else. So it does take me a while to mix it up. And there you can see where I got some on my hands. So thank goodness for baby wipes over to the left-hand side of my desk because I'm able to clean up. So I just continue to mix colors. I end up adding a little bit of the Early Espresso Stampin' Up! Re-inker to darken it up, and then I paint both the front and back of my images. Now, I know my sister Sherry doesn't like story time when YouTubers tell story time, but I love story time. When people tell me about their life and their kids, it keeps me invested in their channel because I want to hear what's going on. Like there's one gal who recently got married and now she's in her 7th month of a pregnancy, and it's just fun. So you're going to hear a little story time from me now. So this is the saga of my car. Now you guys know I'm a nurse in California and I commute back and forth by flight. But I do have a car there in California, and it is older than dirt almost. It is a 1998 Ford Explorer that I bought brand new. And believe me, I have got my money out of that car because it has been fantastic. I do have a car here in Arizona also, but that old beater car in California is just perfect to get me to and from work. Now back to the little door. Make sure that you are able to open up the doors, that the paint doesn't glue them down. So that's what I'm doing there. So anyway, well, maybe 6 months ago, where I parked my car at the airport, it's an off-site parking place, and this is in San Jose, California. They lose my keys. Well, they lost a lot of keys. And so they had to have a locksmith come in and make new keys for all these cars. Well, since that time, my car has had problems starting. I've had 2 different keys made. I've had the whatever mechanism, computer chip in there. I've had it reprogrammed to the keys. It's a pain because a couple of times I've had to take a taxi to get to work. So I figured it's a 1998 Ford Explorer. Maybe I need to get a different car. But because I'm so close to retirement, I really didn't want to get another car. Didn't want to spend the money on another car. Well, this is where the blessings come from our Father in heaven. So my daughter, she bought a new car. And when she told me she had bought a new car, I jokingly said, "Oh, maybe you ought to give me your old car." And she said, "Okay, Mom, you can have the old car," which is a nice van. And she says, "You've done so much for Mark and I, you can just have it." And so, wow, what a blessing that is. So the next time I go to California, a girlfriend of mine and I are going to drive there. So I just thought I'd share that little story. So now I want to add a little bit of texture to my door. And I've got this little bit of leftover texture paste from Ranger. And so I add some of the walnut stain ink to it to color it up and make it a little bit brown. I was surprised that the doors, after I painted them, they looked more gray than they did a brownish color. Now this is a stencil that my sister gave me, and it looks like bricks or rocks, probably more like a rock. And I end up not liking it. So I cover over all of it, but you'll see that in just a little bit. So I lay the stencil over my dried door, and I take some of the texture paste that I've colored, and using my Stampin' Up! Palette knife, which are really nice little palette knives. They come 3 to a pack, and they are plastic and they wash up really well. So you just spread your texture paste over the stencil, And here I speed up the video a little bit. One of the reasons I didn't think this stencil worked for this project is I really needed a stencil that covered the entire area, because when I pick it up to place it on the other side to stencil that, I miss some of it, and so I have to go in and kind of dab it, and I don't know, it just didn't look right to me. The other thing I was going to say is, oh, yeah, that it also looked, after I painted it and what have you, it looked like a zebra. And so I didn't like that look either. So I end up using like a brick stencil on one of the doors, and on the other one, I just make it real old and metal looking. So you see how I'm trying to figure out how to put some of the texture paste in those other little areas. So then once all of that texture paste dries, I take some of the Tim Holtz Distress spray, that's vintage photo, and I spray it all over both pieces. Now I've added some texture paste to that top little arch area, and it did darken it up. It made it a little bit nicer, but I still was not totally happy with it. So on the next door, what I do is I spray some of the stain on the door prior to putting the texture paste on. So I take all the little bits and pieces, the door handle and the door knockers, and I lay them down and I spray them with the vintage photo first before putting down the texture paste. And don't forget to do, as far as the door is concerned itself, where it opens up, to do the other side also, because when you open the door, you don't want it to look white on that other side. And then I just take a little baby wipe and dab some of the color off, and I do like that better. I think it's starting to come together, but it still has a ways to go. And then now this is the other door that I did using the Stampin' Up stencil. And I must say that I really do like Stampin' Up stencils. Number one, they're large. And then number two, they're very sturdy. Some stencils, you can just tell they're very flimsy, but the Stampin' Up ones are good. So every time they have a new type of stencil come out, I buy them, because eventually I'm going to use them. And then, so what I do is I spray the stain over the top of the texture paste. So now that the stain has dried, I still think this looks just too new. I'm liking this okay, but I think I'm going to add something else to age it. So these are my Daniel Smith watercolors, and what I'm going to do is add some water to the black. It's called Lunar Black. And then I'm also going to actually spray the door. We'll do this one first. And then that color will run a little bit. And let me put this out of the way and bring my watercolors in. So then I take the black and I just start like dabbing it so that it runs down the door. And then that will add just again a little bit of aging to it and make it not look quite so perfect. So now I've speeded it up a little bit. Now I wanted to talk to you guys. I am looking for anything that you guys might have that has to do with medicine, medical profession, nursing, that is old and vintage. I really want to do a journal of my nursing career, so I'm looking for things to add to it and papers to put in there. You know, I have some things, but if you happen to have any that you would be willing to part with, let me know, and then we will exchange some happy mail. Maybe if there's something you've seen that I own in my craft room, I'd be happy to share it with you guys. So think about that, and let me know if there's anything that you would like to exchange with Happy Mail. So I am really starting to like the way this is looking. It's coming out pretty good. So that is where the door is going to be glued, so I don't need to age that. So I'm going to leave that to dry. I might add just a tiny bit more over here now. And then I'll be back with you guys. Okay, so my pieces are dry. I put them out in the sun in Arizona. It doesn't take very long to dry, but you can tell now that they're quite sturdy. This one here, I still have to be a little bit careful. I'm going to bend it back ever so slightly. Whoever gets this journal or buys it, you're just going to have to kind of be careful and not like open the doors completely. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this image, which I did cut to the exact size of the door, and I'm going to glue it to the door. So to do that, I take my favorite glue, my Beacons 3-in-1 glue, and all I want to do is put it along the edge here. And all these layers are going to give this strength. I think that's good. And so I'm just going to lay it down, and I'm going to lay this on the back of it and make sure it's nice and even. The nice thing again about our Beacons 3-in-1 glue is it does give you a little bit of wiggle room. Now you see how it's not laying down flat there. So what I do to help that is I make sure it's where it needs to be. And then I take some clips and I clip it down so that that helps hold the two pieces of paper together, because there is so much dimension with the texture paste. Sometimes it does take a little bit of help with these clips to keep the two pieces together so that they have time to adhere. Now this looks like it's a little bit short on this side, but that's no problem at all. I can either trim it down or I can just add some ink there to even it out. So I'm going to set this aside and let it dry. Okay, so those have dried, and so now we've got our fairy in the center. But like I said, this, maybe it shrunk a little bit. So I'm just gonna take a pair of scissors and just snip off this edge here. And nobody will be the wiser. I think it's a little bit too high over here also, but I think once I get everything glued down, it really won't matter much. And I went ahead and glued the archway here. And so then this will be glued here to the door, and then when it will open up. Now, as I'm looking at this, this looks kind of a gold tint here, and I had decorated or colored the little knobs to open up the door black, but I think I'm going to use some of my gilding wax to see if I can lighten those up. Hang on just a second. I'm going to grab my other ones and see if there's other golds. Okay, there's a light amber. I think that's too light. Oh, there you go. It's walnut stain. Let's try that. And then there's this gold. Well, let's try the walnut first. No, change my mind. Let's lighten it up first with a light gold, and then if I need to darken it up, if it's too light, then I'll add some of that walnut there. So, oh yeah, that's going to make it stand out nicely. I got these off of Amazon, and actually I'm not going to cover it completely. I'm going to let some of that black show through. Yeah, I got these off of Amazon a while back, and they're fantastic. Oh yeah, see how that makes that stand out now a little bit more? I like that. Okay, that is good there. And then I'm going to put a little brad there, but I want to color it up to match. So I think this one, oops, that fell through. I'll have to get a little pair of tweezers and pull that through. I'm going to grab one of these and put some of that gilding wax on there and see if that, yeah, that lightens that up too. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera off while I kind of clean this up. I'm going to go ahead and glue those down, and then I'm going to show you how I glue that down, and I will also go ahead and glue this down. So I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, so now those things are dry, and I'm going to show you how I add a little brad there just to kind of cover that up. Is I just take the brad actually and use my little snips here and snip off the brad part, add some of our glue into the center of it, let's see, this may pick it up, it may not. It seems like the stickiness is kind of gone on it. Yeah, it falls off. I need a new one. So I just lay it over the top and move it if I need to. There we go, and that just gives just a tiny little bit of color there. So there's our fairy in the door, and now I'm going to show you how it looks in a journal. So I have finished this journal here, and in I think my next video, let me show you this. I'm going to show you how I did the cover for this journal. with this little latch here. I just love it. And look at her with her little dress. I might just do the next time with the dress is like just little strips of material. Look at this pretty little butterfly here. And then this is the front. But the journal opens up like this and then flips open. And then we've got like, I think this may start to be my signature idea for journals, because that's where I put my letter to people. And I'm not going to do a flip through, but I am going to just show you the one page that has the door on it, and here it is. So I love how it goes with this kind of brownish color here. And this was the one that I had originally done with my sister Sherry's stencil, where it was like rocks, but like I said, it looked like a zebra. So I just put the texture paste over it, like all the way. I edged around here, distressed it with vintage photo, and then it opens up like that. I think it came out really good. So thank you for joining me for this little tutorial, and I will be back with you guys soon to show you how to make this journal like this with these this little clasp. See, just holds very nicely there. All right, thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.